Beginning, Sam stood on the road leading to the old psychiatric hospital. Snow was falling heavily, covering the ground like a thick white blanket. The massive structure loomed before him, its collapsed roof and dark windows a testament to decades of decay. The sky was overcast, and the world seemed frozen in tense silence. 2. Secrets in the ruins. The rusty latch on the door resisted, until Sam pushed with all his strength. Inside, the air was colder, tinged with the smell of mold and metal. Broken furniture and old medical charts littered the floor. The silence within the hospital was even heavier than outside, pressing against him like a weight. When Ralph came out of the bathroom, the silence within the hospital was even heavier than outside, pressing against him like a weight. 3. The endless corridor. The hallway stretched deep into the heart of the hospital. Its walls were marked with stains resembling handprints. The beam of Sam's flashlight illuminated peeling paint and dust-covered floors, making his imagination run wild with every shadow. 4. Childlike drawings. On one wall, Sam noticed strange drawings. Childlike figures with oversized black eyes stared back at him from the crumbling plaster. Beneath one of the drawings was scrawled, "They're watching." The words made him glance over his shoulder instinctively. 5. Sounds from the depths. A faint cry echoed from deeper within the building. Sam froze, straining to listen. The sound was quiet, barely discernible. But it came again, growing louder. It seemed to beckon him forward, drawing him deeper into the hospital's labyrinth. 6. The frozen ward. The room where the sound originated was empty. A broken bed, a tattered blanket, and a shattered window through which icy wind whistled were all it contained. Sam searched the room but found nothing. Yet, the unshakable feeling of being watched clung to him like a shadow. 7. Tracks in the dust. On the dusty floor, a trail of footprints stretched ahead. They looked fresh but were far too large to be human. Sam followed them, his heart pounding in his chest, until they led him to a massive metal door. 8. Scratching beyond the door. Sam pressed his ear to the door, hoping to catch any sound from within. A low, drawn-out scratching noise sent shivers down his spine. It was as if something was clawing at the other side of the steel barrier. His hand trembled as it reached for the handle. 9. The operating room. Behind the door was an old operating theater. The beam of his flashlight revealed rusted tools and a surgical table with torn straps. On the wall, bloody letters spelled out, "They are still here." A photograph hung nearby, showing doctors and patients, their faces blurred and their eyes empty. Black voids. 10. Encounter with her suddenly destroyed. Sam's flashlight flickered and went out. He heard footsteps and labored breathing nearby. When the light returned, a figure stood before him in a tattered hospital gown. Her skin hung in loose, rotting folds, and her eye sockets were empty black holes. She tilted her head as if studying him. 11. A scream from the abyss. The creature's mouth opened wide, emitting a piercing scream. Sam stumbled backward, his legs like lead. Only after an agonizing moment did he manage to turn and run, his breath ragged and frantic. 12. Staircase to madness. He descended a staircase, tripping and falling as he went. Every step echoed loudly, mingling with her inhuman screams. When he reached the ground floor, he found the main exit had vanished. In its place stood a solid, impenetrable wall. False freedom. Sam escaped through a shattered window and sprinted into the forest. He ran without looking back, the cold air biting his lungs. When he finally dared to glance behind him, the hospital stood silent and dark, as though nothing had happened. Yet the snow was littered with tracks that led straight to his feet. 14. Whispers in the forest. As he paused to catch his breath, the forest around him fell unnaturally silent. Then, a whisper came from behind. "You can't run." Sam turned, but all he saw was the consuming darkness.
By a frosty beginning, Bob adjusted his scarf as the frosty air nipped at his face. The winter trail stretched ahead, leading into a dense forest shrouded in snow. He had planned this solo hike to clear his mind, to escape the chaos of the holidays. "Just a quick trek," he muttered to himself, shifting his backpack into a more comfortable position. Little did he know, this journey would lead him to something far beyond his imagination. The forest beckons. The deeper Bob went, the quieter the world became. The crunch of snow underfoot was the only sound as the trees closed in around him. Shadows stretched across the path, their shapes distorted by the pale winter sun. Bob noticed how the air seemed thicker here, heavier. It was almost as if the forest was alive, watching. All an ominous discovery after hours of hiking. Bob's eyes caught something unusual. Nestled between two ancient pines was the entrance to a cave, its mouth wide and gaping like a silent scream. The dark interior seemed to swallow the light, and the cold that emanated from it was bone-chilling. A strange symbol was etched above the entrance, resembling an eye surrounded by jagged lines. Bob hesitated, the hair on his neck standing on end. Entering the abyss, curiosity outweighed caution. Bob switched on his flashlight and stepped inside. The cave walls were damp, glistening with an eerie green moss. The beam of light flickered as he moved deeper, illuminating strange scratches on the stone. Some resembled claw marks, while others formed patterns he couldn't decipher. Whispers in the dark had started subtly, a faint whisper echoing through the cavern. Bob froze, straining to listen. The sound grew louder, though he couldn't make out the words. It felt like the cave was speaking to him, luring him further. His heart pounded in his chest, but his feet moved forward as if pulled by an unseen force. 6. The chamber, the tunnel, opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling was lost in darkness, and stalactites hung like jagged teeth. At the center of the room stood an altar, crudely fashioned from stone and covered in ancient symbols. Something glistened on its surface. Bob stepped closer, his flashlight trembling in his hand. It was a pool of thick, dark liquid that smelled of iron. 7. The first glimpse of shuffling sound came from behind him. Bob whirled around, his flashlight beam dancing across the chamber. At the edge of the light, something moved. It was tall and impossibly thin, its limbs unnaturally long. The creature's skin was as pale as the snow outside, stretched tightly over its bony frame. It had no eyes, only a smooth, featureless face. 8. The monster revealed, the creature's head tilted, as if sensing him. Then a slit appeared where its mouth should have been, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. It emitted a sound that was both a hiss and a growl, sending shivers down Bob's spine. He stumbled backward, his flashlight flickering wildly. The monster moved closer, its spindly arms reaching out. 9. A desperate escape. Bob's survival instincts kicked in. He turned and ran, the sound of the creature's claws scraping against the stone echoing behind him. The cave seemed to shift and change, the path twisting in impossible ways. Panic set in as Bob realized he couldn't find the exit. 10. The final confrontation cornered in a narrow passage. Bob faced the creature. It loomed over him, its breath freezing the air between them. Desperation took hold, and he swung his flashlight at it. The creature let out an ear-piercing screech, the sound reverberating through the cave. Bob's vision blurred, and his knees buckled. 11. Vanishing Act. When Bob didn't return, search parties were sent out. They found his footprints leading to the cave, but no sign of him inside. The chamber was empty, the altar untouched. Locals whispered of the shadow dweller, a creature said to claim those who ventured too far. Bob's name became just another in a long list of disappearances linked to the cursed cave. 12. A lingering presence. Months later, hikers reported hearing whispers near the cave and seeing a pale figure lurking among the trees. Some claimed to hear a voice calling for help, a voice that sounded eerily like Bob's. The cave remained, its dark entrance a silent warning to those who dared to explore the unknown.
1. Waiting for the holiday. Little Anya sat by the window, pressing her cheek against the cold glass. Snowflakes swirled outside, gently falling to the ground. She loved New Year's Eve. It was her favorite holiday, magical, filled with presents, lights, and the promise of something good. This time, I'll see Santa, she thought, gazing at the sparkling forest in the distance. 2. A secret wish. This year, Anya had only one wish. She had written a letter to Santa with a special request to bring her mother back. Her mom had left last winter and never returned. Her dad didn't explain where she had gone, only saying that her mom was now in heaven. But Anya didn't believe him. Santa can do anything. He'll help for sure, she whispered every night before falling asleep. 3. Lights and shadows. Night fell quickly. The Christmas tree in the corner of the room shimmered with colorful lights, and the ornaments seemed to come alive in the soft glow. Her father had gone to bed long ago, but Anya stayed by the window, waiting for Santa. The house felt empty and quiet, except for the creaking of the floorboards and the howling wind outside. 4. Jingle bells. Just after midnight, a faint jingle of bells broke the silence. Anya stiffened, holding her breath. She slipped out of her chair and crept to the window. Outside, among the snowy haze, she noticed something strange. Deep tracks in the snow leading toward the house. They were far too large and heavy to belong to a person. 5. Something at the door. Suddenly, a creak echoed from downstairs. Anya froze. It sounded like someone had opened the front door. She slowly descended the stairs, her feet barely making a sound. The hallway was dimly lit by the glow of the Christmas lights, but the shadows seemed thicker. In the corner by the door stood a tall figure. 6. A guest in red. Santa. It was him, but not at all how she imagined. His red suit was dirty and stained, and his beard was tangled and matted with something sticky. Instead of cheerful eyes, he had deep, endless black voids. Anya's heart clenched with fear. "Are you Santa?" she whispered. 7. A twisted smile. The figure tilted its head as if studying her. Its mouth stretched into a wide, unnatural grin, revealing rows of small, sharp teeth. "You've been waiting for me, haven't you, little girl?" it rasped, its voice like metal scraping against metal. Anya trembled but couldn't move. 8. A nightmare gift. Santa extended a hand toward her. His long, bony fingers, tipped with blackened nails, held a box wrapped in tattered paper. "This is for you, Anya," he said. She shook her head, but the creature stepped closer, leaving her no choice but to take it. 9. A horrifying discovery. The box was heavy. Anya carefully unwrapped it, her hands shaking. Inside was a doll. It looked exactly like her mother, the same smile, the same hair, but the doll's eyes were hollow and empty. Anya screamed, dropping the gift. Santa only laughed. his voice echoing through the house like a dreadful melody. 10. Her father and the silence. Her father rushed into the room at the sound of her scream, but Santa was already gone. Only the deep footprints in the snow outside remained. When he asked Anya what had happened, she stayed silent. The next morning, looking at the strange tracks in the yard, her father realized that his daughter hadn't been dreaming. 11. A vanishing trail. That night, after her father went to sleep, Anya heard the jingling bells again. Despite the cold, she stepped outside as if in a trance. The footprints led into the forest. She stopped at the edge, hesitant to enter, but something dark and massive moved between the trees, beckoning her forward. 12. Disappearance. The next morning, her father found her room empty, the window open, no footprints, no sound, only the quiet snow continued to fall. From that day on, no one celebrated New Year's in that house, and in the forest, on winter nights, some claimed they could hear the jingling of bells and a child's voice calling out for someone to come home.